Do you ever sit down to play a piece that you know you practiced, only to discover that it somehow packed its bags and left your brain overnight? Where are you going? Well, you're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. And no, you shouldn't quit piano unless you really want to. There's just some information that you're missing. And because I'm your best piano playing friend, I'm about to give it to you. In this video, I'll show you two simple, very powerful, yet little known tools that actually work with how your brain really learns, instead of against it, like most traditional piano practice. And if you're someone who struggles with maintaining focus and motivation, join the club. You need to watch this video till the end because what you're about to learn is a game changer. Let's talk about your big, beautiful brain. Imagine if you could remember everything you've ever read, seen, heard, experienced, everything that's ever happened in your life. That would be way too much information, right? So nature did us a favor by designing our brains so that we forget about anything that's not important. So you see, forgetting isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's really a survival mechanism to prevent overload, but it's really not helpful when you're learning to play piano. In our modern world, with the constant bombardment of information, this practice of forgetting is pushed into overdrive. Every scroll, every podcast, every click, every how to hack your health video, not to mention all the stuff that's on your to-do list. Well, in your brain, they're all competing for space with that Beethoven sonata you're working on. So your brain, doing its job, protecting you, being clever, it ruthlessly filters out a bunch of information. If you practice something before, but you haven't revisited for a while, or you don't make your brain work a little bit to remember what you've learned, then your brain tends to throw out this disposable information like it's expired goat milk. Ugh. There's a name for this, and it's called the Forgetting Curve. First discovered by Hermann Ebbinghaus in the 1800s, and still one of the most terrible things for pianists to deal with. According to the Forgetting Curve, within 24 hours, we tend to forget about 70% of information that we've learned. Oof. Unless we do something about it. All right, we all know that repeating something helps us to remember it. But here's the secret to remembering better, for longer, and more securely. It's called spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is a simple concept, but it's revolutionary. And it's one of the most powerful ways to defeat the forgetting curve. Here's how spaced repetition works. When you learn some new information, let's just keep it simple and say it's playing the C major scale with your right hand. Instead of repeating it over and over until you want to throw that piano out the window, what you instead do is review it at increasing intervals. So let's say that the first day you practice playing that C major scale with your right hand, come back to it in about 4 hours and just play it again. Then about 12 hours later, play that C major scale again with your right hand. Come back 24 hours later, review it again. Then give yourself a couple of days off and come back and play that C major scale with your right hand again. Take about 3 days off. Come back and play that C major scale with your right hand again. So what you're doing is you're spacing out the practices in longer and longer intervals. By doing this, what you're actually doing is you're revisiting that information right before you're about to forget it. That moment when the information is just at the edge of your memory and your brain has to really work to remember it, that is the sweet spot. It's important to remember that after we take in information, our brain needs time to absorb it and to kind of assimilate it into everything else that we know. And it does this during rest and during sleep. This is when your memory gets encoded and moved into long-term storage. It's like telling your brain, hey, this is important, don't delete this one. And your brain listens, kind of like magic, but scientifically backed magic.
Hey.
All right, wait, we're not done yet because now it's time for that magic practice technique number 2, also scientifically approved. Many people think that drilling a song or a part of a song over and over and over and over is the only way to master it. Does that sound familiar? But here's a reality check. Doing the same thing over and over doesn't necessarily help you to learn it well. In fact, it can often backfire. If you keep repeating your mistakes over and over, you're going to remember those mistakes because practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. I wrote a whole book about that. So by repeating your mistakes over and over, while you're spending a lot of time practicing, this can pretty easily lead you to become frustrated. And then you might decide that piano is just too hard, or you're too old, or, say it with me, you don't have talent. But what if I told you that none of those things are necessarily true? What if I told you that instead of endlessly repeating a song, you could practice less and get better faster? It's true. And you know, I don't do tricks or hacks. This stuff works. So let's get to it. Instead of practicing one thing at a session, you instead rotate between a few pieces or skills in a single practice session. For example, instead of practicing your Chopin Nocturne for 45 minutes straight, which might feel productive, but it really isn't, you could instead spend 10 minutes on your Chopin, then 5 on arpeggios, then 10 minutes learning part of a jazz tune, and then 10 minutes reviewing a piece from memory. You set a timer to keep you on track, and you stick with that timer. As soon as the alarm goes off, you move on to the next skill. Now, here is the magical part. When you've gone through the entire cycle, you go back and you do it again. It's kind of like interval training in sports. So why does this work? Because every time you switch from one task to another, it forces your brain to re-engage. You get that tiny mental struggle to remember what you did in the first cycle. That tiny mental struggle you experience when you're recalling what you did in the first cycle, that's called learning. And it keeps your brain on its toes. Do brains have toes? You know what I mean. So this might feel a little bit chaotic at first, like you're trying to juggle 3 different conversations or more at the same time, but that's exactly what makes it work. You're training your brain to be adaptable and agile and to integrate what it learns more deeply. Is it annoying? Maybe a little in the beginning, but is it effective? Yes, very. Now, interleaved practice and spaced repetition on their own are super powerful, but used together, they will help you learn faster, remember better, and, dare I say it, enjoy practicing more. All right, now that you understand the theory, let's talk about what this actually looks like in your daily practice. Here's how you can start. Mix it up daily. Choose 3 or 4 different things to work on in your session. It could be a part of a piece you're learning, a bit of piano technique exercises, a review piece, maybe even some improvisation. Remember to rotate through them according to a schedule that you set, just a few minutes each. Stick to it and go through the cycle at least 2 times. Then plan to revisit these same things that you just worked on at spaced intervals. At first, you'll want to do them closer together in time and then space them out over a few days or a week or 2 weeks, depending on how long you've been working on something. On the days that you are taking time off from working on those particular things, during your spaced repetition, work on different concepts or skills or pieces. So in this way, you're constantly changing up your practice routine. And if you want a practice tracker, guess what? I've made one for you. It's free. The link is below this video. Don't be fooled by feeling productive. Instead, do the things that actually make you productive. Logging in hours of practice by repeating something over and over might feel satisfying, but it's not the same as learning. And over time, I can almost guarantee that it will get tiresome for you if you don't see the results that you were hoping for. So you don't need to practice longer, you just need to practice smarter by using science. And by using spaced repetition and interleaved practice, you'll actually start to remember that stuff that you are working on. Wild concept. Did you know that there is a secret to playing fast runs that has nothing to do with practicing more? You can learn all about it in this video here. Keep practicing, have fun, and I'll see you soon. Bye!